Hey, what's up, everybody? Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for tuning into this episode of According to Sacha Podcast Conversation series. So, we're here to officially kick off the first episode of the third season. Yes, I know I was with you last week. That was a special episode, but tonight I have my special guest with me for the conversation series, Miss LaPora Lindsey. She is a career coach and a speaker, and she's going to drop some gems about, self-improvement, career development, all that good stuff. Whatever the conversation take us, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. But before we bring her up, I just want to say thank you to everyone for, helping us to have a wonderful first two seasons. And I know we're getting ready to kick off the third season. It's going to be a short season because we have the holidays, but we're here again with another lineup of amazing entrepreneurs and professionals in their own industries. So you know where we at, you know what I love for you to do. So you gotta like, follow, and share. Like, follow, and share all of our platforms. We are on LinkedIn now, you guys. So hey, LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and then we're also on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, um, Google, the list at the bottom. It goes on and on and on. That's where we are. And I am so thankful that you guys are helping us to do everything that we're doing for the people that we're bringing onto the platform. So thank you again. I am truly appreciative. Trying to think, is there anything else I need to tell you guys before I bring LaPora on? I will not be with you next week, so we will not have the conversation series next week, but I may go live, but I'll be going live from Paris, you guys. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? Last season I was talking about going. Now I'm like leaving Wednesday. It's just like that, and we're here. So I want to thank everybody for purchasing the book, The Ugly Truth About Entrepreneurship, Keys to Managing Mental Wellness. If you haven't purchased it yet, go ahead, do it. We're on Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes and Noble. We're out there. Go to the website and you can just get the book from there. And then, and continue to vote. I am part of the Fab Over 40 contest, you guys. So I will be posting it everywhere. I need you to continue to vote because I'm really trying to, see what we could do with this. Okay. So there are daily votes. If you do happen to pay for a vote, it is a charitable contribution because it is October and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So the charity we are supporting is the National Breast Cancer Foundation. Okay. So just know that if you say, look, Sacha, I want to get you 10 votes, I'm going to pay $10. No, that's a contribution, a charitable contribution that you're making to a nonprofit. Okay. So I am not going to delay any longer. I will be right back with Miss LaPora. Entrepreneurship, small business, is something that everybody would love to do, making their own money. And this is what we will be talking about on According to Sacha. Hey, LaPora, how are you?
I'm good, Sacha. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you being on the show and helping us to kick off the third season. So it's like the first episode of the third season of According to Sacha Podcast. And, you're going to grace us with all of your gems and everything that you have in your world. And I just have one question I need to ask you, and that is, who is LaPora Lindsey?
So I am many things, but I guess professional-wise, if I had to sum it up, it would be a career confidence whisperer. I am someone who I really love supporting people from behind the scenes, just really letting people know that, what it takes in order to recognize your self-worth, in order to learning how to handle rejection, all of these things, which can result in having confidence, being a supporter. And I'm also a mother. I'm also a wife, a daughter, a sister, so all those things. But professionally speaking, a career confidence whisperer is what I am, or who I
I
am.
love that. I love that career confidence whisper. Like, so what was it about that type of authoritative title that you walk in? What brought you to that place of saying, you know what, I am a whisperer?
So number one, I'm an introvert, and not only am I an introvert, but I'm also for the longest time I'm pretty reserved now, but I was also considered shy growing up. But I still had this quiet confidence about me, uh, and I always felt like when I saw or identified other people who didn't have that, there was always a part of me that wanted to share that. Again, it wasn't where I felt like I needed to be in the forefront in order to do that. I felt like just, providing encouraging words, saying, "Oh, you got this," and just having these conversations on the sideline. I
Mhm.
felt like helping people within their careers, as far as having those conversations, helping those people in their careers. I felt like that's kind of where that whispering came from, because after those conversations, so many people would end up taking action on those things or start towards that particular area. And so that's kind of how I came with that career confidence whisperer.
Yeah, I love that because you're saying so many things that I can identify with, and just like we talking about so many people that you talk to, and after those conversations, they took action, and that's like one of the things I used to tell a lot of people because before I was, you know, out here all in the forefront as a business strategist. I was doing that years ago, but with people that always came to me. We had conversations, people with my friends, referrals, and then I was just like, look, I'm confident if you just take this and run with it, you're good,
Yeah.
and people like us because that shows that you have a given nature. You're just like, hey, look, I just want you to be the best of who you could be and keep on going. And so I really love that. And then the second thing I could identify with, I know some of my viewers might be like, oh, she do not seem like have anything to do with an introvert. I call myself an ambivert now because
Right.
I know how to pop out and be extra and then come back and be like, well, I'm gotta go and just kind of hermitize myself. But
Yeah.
how do you, as you're saying that you're an introvert,
Yeah.
how do you balance that out? Because, now you're in the forefront. You're not just behind the scenes when you're
Right.
really building your brand.
Yeah. So one of the things that I try to take note of and continuously do is the seven habits of highly effective people,
Mhm.
right? Written by Stephen Covey. One of the things that's mentioned in that book is remaining more interested than you
Mhm.
are interesting. And
Mm.
so for me, even though I am pushing myself to the forefront, because with writing a book and with my business, that is required, it still
Mhm.
is based on the conversations that I'm having with people. It's still based on the information that I'm sharing, is because people are interested in these topics.
Mhm.
My clients have questions about these, the people that I have had contact with. And so in doing that, number one, it takes the weight off of me of finding something to say, finding something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when people are listening to me, it is not necessarily me that they're listening to, but honestly, it's a reflection of the
Mhm.
questions that they have, the thoughts that they have, and sometimes maybe even uh, affirmation or of confirming some of the things that they needed to hear said
Mhm.
out loud. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's all of those things, but just keeping that in mind, that it's not really about me, but it's about the work that I'm doing for other people. That
Mhm.
really helps. And so it keeps me energized while I'm doing it. But as soon as I can, like, take a break and step back and sit in quiet, that's what I do.
Yeah. I know the feeling because I could do that, especially, and I'm glad we're having this conversation because I know that there are a lot of people out there who identify with being an introvert. And, and I see a lot of groups, especially business groups that I'm in, you have people that says, yes, I'm an introvert, but they're building their business wrapped around that personality
Yeah.
and seeing how, like yourself, like how do you maneuver around it and make it work for you and those that you're working with. And so, and when you made that statement about, afterwards, you just go back and just relax and just kind of get to yourself
Got to
because
recharge. Yeah.
it pulls a lot out of you. It does,
Yeah.
and it's like I remember going to like networking events, especially prior to the pandemic, and I was just always in a networking event, and I just take that deep breath, like, look, I have a purpose for building my business, and I know I have to connect. So
Right.
let me just push past what that other part is saying. No, you don't want to connect with anybody. Just stay in the shadows or whatever. But I
Yeah.
knew I had to do that. So I would just take that deep breath and just go in like I'm going in the deep. And I
Yeah.
just put on that smile and just keep going. And as soon as it's over, I'm just like, and it's so exhausted. And I just like, you know what? I don't need a networking event for the next 2 days. Let me just replenish myself and everything. You know, you got nervous sweats, everything going on because you're
Yeah.
so focused. But when you're driven, you know, you don't think about those things because you look at the fact of, okay, number one, yes, this is my business. Number two, it is people out here that I can serve and that I can help. You
Right.
know, so when you really anybody's out there that's listening and that you're battling that, you know, that balance, and when they make that balance, then you definitely push past it, found a way to push past it, like LaPora has. Um, so I want to kind of get into the career coaching part of it.
Okay.
How did that, you know, become a tangible business for you?
Um, so questions like this are so hard for me because it's not necessarily one thing. It's like a series of events and it
Mhm.
just kind of leads to like, this is the option. So for me, I'm a military spouse. And so with that, one of the things that constantly happens is I have to always resign from my jobs because we're moving and I want to be able to keep our family physically together as long as possible, whenever we can.
Yeah.
And so with that, it came a time where I was already working in career services for years. I've been in this particular industry for 13, 14 years
Mhm.
and doing the job, but doing it for other companies, or other organizations. And so with, resigning, it's kind of like, well, I had a business before, like years ago. My kids were younger and I was like, ugh, I'm not going to revisit this until the kids get older, and they're older now. And so it's like, well, maybe this is the opportunity to kind of explore that again, to explore that a little bit. Um, so that came like the business aspect of it. But as far as the passion, I've always had a passion for being able to encourage people, inspire people, and the struggles that I have had with self-worth and that I've had with rejection, being able to take my experience and overcome it and those challenges and the people that I have helped, and then continue to kind of take all of that information and move that forward in order to help somebody else. Because why not? Like there's so much, and not every career is going to have pain, but I know that from my experience and the people that I've talked to, a lot of people don't feel valued
Mhm.
in the jobs that they have. They don't feel like they have anything to offer. They feel like there's a certain level or a certain status that they have to be at before they are able to have validation. And so I saw that as an issue, as a challenge.
Mhm.
And so with my business, it's just really coming in and being able to address that and provide that support, inspiration, and some tangible strategies that people can apply as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, because that actually leads me to my next question because, you know, I was going to ask you, like, how do you really like pair that self-worth with career or professional development? You kind of touched on some of the things there, but if you could dig into it a little deeper, because I'm
Yeah.
quite sure that a lot of people that's watching, you know, I have a lot of people who are entrepreneurs. Some of them are entrepreneurs and working 9 to 5s, and then you have just those who are career focused, and the pandemic has shifted a lot of things around, and there's so many narratives out here.
Mhm.
So what would you say is like, how do you really pair the self-worth with career and professional development?
So, one of the things that I do is I'm a certified professional resume writer, and so I take when I'm working with my clients. That's one of the primary areas that we work on. And it's the most tangible as well. Like, so we're not necessarily building on uh the the part of confidence that you can't see, but we're building on the part of confidence that shows up on your resume, shows up on your
Yeah.
application. And so with that, I've found that one of the things that people struggle with is when they are writing their resumes, it's, well, what do I put down? And there's several different challenges that I see. Sometimes people put every single thing on their resume. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Well, they do it because they feel like where they are now and what they've done that's relevant is not enough. And
Mhm.
so that's where that self-worth comes in, where they're feeling like they have to prove even more so. But it's not about that. It's about, how do you make yourself useful? How do you add value?
Mhm.
That's where that self worth comes in. Because no matter what that position is, everyone has a way to add value. It's about examining and evaluating how you do that. And so when I'm working with people, it's about looking at your position that you have now and being able to figure out, how can we put this in your resume? We don't have to go back 20 years to do that. We don't have to put down every single task that you've done, but
Mhm.
it's about just wording it and understanding that what you're putting down is enough as long as it's relevant. The second part of helping people with self-worth and rejection is that rejection aspect, which is sometimes people don't want to apply for jobs anymore. Like
Mhm.
they're tired of it because they're tired of facing that rejection. And for that, there's actually a model that I use. We go through several different steps, but one of them is forward with fear, which is essentially just exposing yourself, knowing that you're going to expose yourself to that rejection, and then trying to figure out what can you learn from it. And
Mhm.
I didn't say what can you do differently, because if you focus on what you can do differently, you're going to be nitpicking as far as, well, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I did this wrong. But if you ask the question, what can I learn? Then
Mhm.
sometimes you'll find that maybe you did check all of the boxes, but maybe there's some other elements that are going on there. Maybe the company isn't hiring. Maybe they hired someone internally. So really just getting my clients to see that is so important, because then it kind of, it does its own internal energizer where they know that they may get rejected, but then they also understand that not all of the time when you get rejected, is it you? Very rarely is it you, but
Mhm.
it's just the situation that you are a part of. So those are just two of the things. There's many things, but those are just the two that I'll bring out.
Yeah, yeah, and those are really good points. And I'm just going to say, everybody who's watching, if you have questions tonight, this is the time to, drop it down in the chat. And that way, if you are like going to look for a new job, or if you're not working and you're going to work, this is the time right now to ask questions while we have LaPora here, because she's really given some very valuable information when it comes down to, just really developing yourself and your self-worth, and being able to go out there and just own that space of wanting to find that right job for yourself, because a lot of that, people don't really think about the fact of, I can walk in my authority even as an associate or an employee for a business. And and that's where that self-worth come in at. I know, quick example for even for myself, a big part of my story I've been really sharing a lot lately is the fact that, I worked for a company for 20 years. I got laid off, but it took me 2 years to find a job.
Mm.
I wasn't trying to at the same time because I started building my business, became a full-time entrepreneur.
Right.
But at the same time, I was just like, in the beginning, before everything took off with my business, I was really looking for a job. And I'm like, okay, I have all these skill sets, I have degrees, I have experience, I have all these things, but no one was hiring. Like I would apply, but I didn't get hired. And so that does play on your confidence, because you're like,
Yes.
what's going on? You could be fresh out of college, it's like, okay, well, I don't have enough experience. Or you could be over 35, 40, or so forth, and be like, okay, maybe they're not hiring me because I'm not the age that they're looking for. So many different factors, like you said, it's not you, it could be within that company. And so, oh my gosh, this is like really, really good, because my next question would be, with the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people, they found out that working remotely was the thing. Then you had people just like, look, I'm not even going to work. I'm going to collect these checks. But now it got to a point where it created a hole within the job market. Even though on the news, they're like, oh, the job market is fine, but there are some big holes there. And
Yeah.
some companies were struggling trying to find employees or to hire people. Now, because now everything is kind of balancing itself out again, and people are going out looking for jobs. So what would be some of the top 3 tips that you can give someone to say, look, you take ownership in this, because now you can leverage the opportunities, because people are really, they have the need for someone with your skill set.
Yeah. So the first thing I would recommend, honestly, regardless of where anyone is trying to go, is they need to be focused. I can't tell you how many people start the job search and they don't know where they're focusing on. I'm like, what are you doing? And the reason why I say that is because it takes up so much time. So if you are saying, hey, I want to be an administrative assistant, or oh, it would really be nice to be a phlebotomist, and oh my gosh, I think I really want to be a teacher. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with all of those different things, but when your attention is on all of those at once, you only have so much energy. And now your energy is dispersed amongst like different avenues. And so I think that it's really important to prioritize, number one, what it is that you want to do, um, and to speak with other individuals who are in the career field that you want to go into. Something called informational interviews, where you're scheduling 15-30 minutes, somebody who has a position that you possibly want to get into, figure out how they got into that field. So that way you can figure out what skills are commonly seen and commonly used. Look at job postings, 3 to 5 job postings. Don't worry about where they're located, but just more so look at the task and responsibilities that they have there, because that also lets you know what is generally expected in the field. So once you focus in, you have an understanding of what's required, and then you know what you can leverage. Because it's easy to say that, oh my gosh, I'm a really good communicator, or I'm really good at these software programs, but if that's not the trend for that particular position or role, it doesn't mean much. So staying up to par by focusing, doing your research, I think is going to be the primary way in order to be able to determine what you can leverage as you are out there during the pandemic, figuring out what is a hot commodity versus what's something that's no longer trending for qualifications.
Yeah, that's good. I was looking at the comments and someone, let's see, Ari, stick to one plan and don't be scared to apply. Lots of companies will train you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just stick with one and see what happens. But then also if you stick with one, one of the things that a lot of times people forget is that if there are certain programs out there, or that you want to try, that you see that, oh my gosh, I don't have any experience in that, sometimes they offer free trials. You can sign up for one of those free trials and get some training in, some free training to see like how you can utilize those skills. So you can wait for the company, or you can, think outside the box and just start using free resources that are out there and available for you.
That's really good. So what would be your viewpoint on, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about intrapreneurship.
Yeah.
So can you, give me your viewpoint on that? Like, how do you see that being an asset for an entrepreneur? I mean, not entrepreneur, but an employee.
So yeah, it's really just about being the best at what you do.
Hmm.
And when I say the best, it is the best that you have to give. I'm not talking about comparing yourself to, the Jacksons, the Joneses, the whoever's. Like, it's comparing yourself to you. How do you add value wherever you are? I like to say stay adding value. So how do you stay adding value? How do you continue to make yourself useful? So, and when it comes to entrepreneurship, it really is about, what can I do at the company that I'm in, or the organization that I'm working in, that is going to make a positive impact? And that impact may be direct or it may be indirect. Honestly, that part doesn't even matter, but it's about taking intentional actions in order to create that impact. And that is how you really dominate the entrepreneurship field, is because now you're the best at what you do, because no matter what position you're in, you're finding a way to be able to maximize the impact within that role.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that entrepreneurship is a new word.
Yeah.
It's always, every year there's a new word. Every 6 months there's something new to apply. And I know, like, paying attention to that and just listening to you just now, just thinking about, even with my past, professional experience, that's how I always carried myself. Anytime I'm on a job, it's like, how can I add value?
Yes.
How the little bit that you do can benefit the overall company. And then you build on that. And like, I built on that, and I was able to really move around and move up in the company that I was working with. And then being, because of the pandemic, I did take on a 9 to 5, as well as me running my business and the brand and everything, and finding myself in a position where, even that has been something that I'm able to leverage with programs that I'm writing and all these other things. So, people, I would just say that whenever, like, you're listening to this interview and taking down all these gems, you have to realize that everywhere you go, you're going to bring yourself and your skill sets and everything that you have, the gifts and the authority that you have, and you just move in it, you flow in it, and just know that even if you don't feel appreciated on your job, you still add value, because that value that you're adding to that job is still increasing the value of yourself. And you can take that wherever you go, even into business, into being an entrepreneur. So people are just jumping in the chat. Hold on, you got some more. I got some more to put up here. Okay. Hey Chantel, let's see. Yes, that gives one realistic expectations about the position. So she popped in on something you had said, like maybe 5 minutes ago. We got caught up in the conversation. So thank you, Chantel, for commenting. And let's see, Ari's back again. Lots of places will give you training as well as free online programs. So just going back to the whole free training. And there's so many different sites you could go to. Like you said, if you stay focused and you kind of identify that one area that you want to pursue, and if that is something that you're going towards, find those programs, the online training, free. Google have them, Facebook has it, HubSpot.com. They have a lot, especially for digital marketing and everything else. So if you want to go into that space, there's so many different programs that are out there. Let's see what else. So Ari also said you have to find a hole in the company and figure how to fix it or add a better plan.
Yeah.
And that's a value statement in itself right there. Because that's what it comes back to, that even if you don't feel like they value you, they still see what you're doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They see what you're doing. So it's just like, it's there, even if they don't show it, but as long as you walk in that confidence. And this was the whole thing, is about that self-worth and the confidence with it. But you also have a book.
I do.
Yeah. So tell me about this book that you have.
So it's called Bottom of the Food Chain. And as you may have guessed, it really is about adding value wherever you are. So I use an analogy throughout the book of the nature's food chain, the ecosystem. And we oftentimes so you have the top of the food chain, right? We often hear, we want to make it to the top. We think about like the bosses, the CEOs, or the people who are just like the shot callers. But then you have the people who aren't that, who are the exact opposite. And it's really just about identifying how you offer that value. Because it doesn't have to be a killed or be killed type of society. But what it is that even if you're in a position which was in the past seen as a position of, oh my gosh, you're at the bottom, you can't do anything there, like nobody wants to be there. There is a lot to be said for what happens there. When you look at the food chain, even though everything is kind of interdependent, it starts somewhere, and typically it starts at the bottom. And so that's all I'll say specifically about the book, because I want people to go out and buy it. But it's just really about understanding the value that you have where you are. And that's not to say that you can't work your way up, but it is to say that wherever you are in your career, taking the time to be in that moment and to realize the type of impact that you can make from being right there.
Yeah, that's really good. Because a lot of people use that saying a lot, I'm at the bottom of the food chain at my job, or I'm just at the bottom of the totem pole, like they don't see me or whatever. But like you said, just pull it from in yourself and just make sure you're bringing that value and impacting wherever you are, and just level up and just grow from there. I really love this. Oh, hold on. We got another one. Can you ask? Okay, so Ari's asking.
Crabs in the barrel.
How do you feel about crabs in a barrel?
What is wait a minute, what? Okay, are you talking about cooking the crabs? Is that the
so crabs in a barrel. So crabs in a barrel is a saying, like when people if somebody is rising up and people around them are pulling down, like you don't get the support because there's like so much competition, things that
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I guess in relation to being at the bottom of the food chain, I guess, is that what is so
Yeah.
with that, I mean, yeah, that it happens. It happens. And honestly, even if you're moving up or just trying to move forward,
Hmm.
like people are going to always be in a place where they're going to want to pull you down, where they're going to want you to be on the same level as them. Um but there's I mean it's kind of hard cuz I've heard the saying before, but I'm not
Yeah.
super familiar with it. So it's kind of hard to address it. I'm going to be completely honest about that part. But, just knowing that even if people are pulling you down, like there's still a way to work your way back up. And who knows? I mean, do you really want to get to the top in that situation? Because aren't the people at the top going to be the ones that get cooked first?
That's a good one. That's a good one. You be like in those crabs be in that pot, the water be boiling, and be like, oh, yeah. But sometimes people do experience that. Just what you just said, and with the competition, and you could be on your job, you could have the clicks, you can have everything, and people find out when you're that one that maybe your boss always calls on,
Yeah,
and then you might walk by and you hear all the whispers and things like that. So in a sense, that's like that rejection, but coming from
yeah.
your peers, your coworkers on that job, because it's like, oh, they don't really talk to you, they don't do anything else, but you always hear your name somewhere. And so I would just say, in addition to what you just mentioned in talking about the crabs in the barrel, if anybody's ever experiencing that, you still just add value, still smile, just keep going, because I know it could be out there on a lot of jobs and people can experience that. Um, but don't worry about all that other stuff, the extra stuff. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and see. Make sure I don't have any more comments here. Okay, so let's see. Yes, when you're coming through the food chain and moving ahead, you're gonna have people. Okay, yeah. So it's just that.
Yeah.
First one, and you started at the bottom of the food chain. Yeah. So, but yeah, so this has been a great conversation. This has been so very good. So I will ask you before we close, because I know you dropped a lot of gems this whole night. So what would be
Thanks.
maybe your to close out with, two positive, impactful phrases or words or tips or anything that you could give people out there that's watching?
Uh, so the first one would be priority and sacrifice. So, especially with all of the changes in the job market, depending on what you want, you're going to have to determine what your priorities are.
Mm-hmm.
And when you select your priorities, something is going to have to be sacrificed. So, for instance, if you decide that you want to work from home, the salary may not be as high. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be the sacrifice because your priority is to work from home. Or if your priority is being able to make more money because you need money financially to support your family, then your priority at that time is going to be, making the money. You may be at a job where you aren't necessarily valued. You may be at a job where you don't love, but you need the money and you're getting the money, right? And so that's kind of like that priority and sacrifice. But also just understanding that the priority and the sacrifice doesn't it's only temporary. It doesn't have to be permanent. So even if your current priority is money, so that you can set yourself up for later, just keeping that in mind that
Yeah.
it is temporary. And so the priority and sacrifice, and as I said before, just stay adding value. Like seriously, just look for ways where you can make impact. Ever since I've been open to the idea that there's always the opportunity to do that, I can't tell you how many times I see it on a daily basis, not even just from me, but from the people that I surround myself with. I see people adding value daily, and it's amazing.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Somebody's doing one more question before we close out. I just want to
Okay.
make sure I acknowledge everyone. So Veronica is asking regarding resume writing, is a two-page resume the right length to have, even if you are mentioning what is appropriate for the position?
So yeah, it and you're going to hear a lot of people say this often, like the length pretty much any answer for resume writing, the most correct answer is that it depends.
Mhm.
Um, so with that, it depends on how many years of it relevant experience that you have. It also depends on the level of position that you are applying for. The general scope, the easiest way for me to sum it up is you want to be able to display effectively how qualified you are for the position in the least amount of words. So I'll say that again. You have to be able to effectively explain how qualified you are for the position in the least amount of words. So I'm not saying that you need to knock it down to one page. I'm not saying keep it to two. I'm saying depending on that position and depending on your experience, you want to just get to the point, address it, but make it effective. And so if you need 2 pages to do that, hey, you take those 2 pages to do that. The one thing is that if you're going into that second page, at least go into a page and a half. Sometimes people go into the second page and it's like a quarter. And I'm like, y'all, at least do the half of the second page.
Yeah.
That's it.
That was a good question, Veronica, and that was an excellent answer. I mean, you want to definitely be straight to the point, be effective with it. And, you want to make impact. You want to
Yeah.
create impact. Just like, if you are writing content for a social media post or anything like that, in our entrepreneurship world, we want to make impact. So that's how it is. Like even a resume, you want to make impact. But like LaPora said, make it effective, straight to the point, and don't do a whole nother paragraph on a second page. So thank you so much for all the wonderful advice and the tips and everything. This conversation has been so beautiful. Everybody, go and follow LaPora. She's on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. All her information is right here. And for everyone who is listening to the podcast, LaPora's information is on the title page for the description page for the podcast as well. So, LaPora, thank you so much for
Thank
gracing us
you.
tonight. Open up this third season with so much information. It's been such a pleasure having you here tonight.
Thank you, Sasha. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you. And everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. And remember that in everything you do, be great and command your day. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.